America's brand new Speaker of the House, his first interview. Mr. Speaker, good to see you, sir.
Thanks, Sean. Welcome to Capitol Hill.
All right, 2 weeks ago, did you think, have you gotten used to the word speaker yet?
I haven't, Sean. I've been in the job about 48 hours now, and it's kind of surreal, to be honest. I just want to say at the outset here, God be with the law enforcement officers that are handling that situation in Maine. Our prayers have been with the families of that tragedy. Everyone here in the House was dialed in on that all day, and it's really something. So just address that at the front end. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention it.
Well, already, though, you're immersed in Democrats, and this happens with almost every shooting incident. The immediate call by the left in this country, we need more gun laws, we need more legislation. Yeah. What's your answer to that?
At the end of the day, the problem is the human heart. It's not guns, it's not the weapons. At the end of the day, we have to protect the right of the citizens to protect themselves, and that's the Second Amendment. And that's why our party stands so strongly for that. I agree with the comments of your guests there. This is not the time to be talking about legislation. We're in the middle of that crisis right now. But I just want you to know, and I want the American people to know, that all the members of the House here are deeply concerned about the families involved and everyone. And we pray for the law enforcement officers that are doing that hard job tonight that most people do not have the bravery to do.
You talk about the human heart. If somebody really wants to kill innocent people, there's a lot of ways they can do it beyond using a gun.
Yeah.
I'm sure this will become a bigger issue throughout the days moving forward. Is there any specific gun law that you would look at, or any new legislation you would look at?
Well, been on the job for 48 hours. We'll see. I mean, there'll be lots of discussion, as there are after these heartbreaking tragedies. But your point is well taken. I mean, you know, in Europe and in other places, they use vehicles to mow down crowds at parades, where they've done that here in the United States. It's not the weapon, it's the underlying problem. I believe we have to address the root problems of these things, and mental health, obviously, as in this case, is a big issue. And we've got to seriously address that as a society and as a government, and there's lots of measures pending on that as well.
You got a very warm welcome from the DNC. They said you were an anti-abortion, MAGA extremist, Mike Johnson. That was their first words. Welcome you. Well,
oh yeah, welcome
to your new job. Then they went on to say that you were the co-sponsor of to institute an extreme abortion ban. We'll get into detail nationwide. You want to cut Social Security and Medicare. And here's some free advice from Mike Johnson, and that is, don't get comfortable. We've been here before. This is the same exact MAGA extremism that the American people have already rejected, and they will do it again. I thought that was the warmest welcome you could ever want from the Democratic Party.
How about that? Yeah, welcome to the job. Look, they don't know me. A lot of these people don't know me, and I think if they would talk to some of my colleagues here, even on the other side of the aisle, that have worked with me for the 7 years that I've been on Capitol Hill, they would tell them that those things are not true. Give me a chance. Let me have a chance to lead here, and you'll see what I'm really about.
Let me ask you, because a lot of people don't know you, and before I get to some really heavy-duty questions, issues of great national importance, what do you want people to know about you? There were things about you that I learned in the lead-up to this interview. I didn't know that you didn't legally adopt a young 14-year-old, but you basically adopted him. It would have taken 4 years to finalize it. And he happened to be African-American, and he was your first son. And now you have 4 other children. And one of them, well, this son was named Michael. Your other 14-year-old is Jack. And you said some pretty deep, profound things that you think it is harder for your African-American son than your biological son in life. Are you saying that's institutional racism in the country? What were you referring to?
No, it's a reality, though, having raised 2 14-year-old boys in America, in the state of Louisiana. They had different experiences, and I'm not so sure it was all about skin color, but it is about culture and society. Michael, our first, came from a really troubled background and had a lot of challenges. Jack, on the other hand, was raised in our household from the time he was born. And it just struck me, Sean, that it's a reality that, you know, there are different paths in life, and people have lots of things they have to overcome. And so it gives you a lot of empathy. It allows you to see into the heart of people and really try to understand them better. And that comes in handy in this arena, because we're really expected to hate our colleagues on the other side of the aisle and beat them all the time as enemies, politically speaking. But you have to recognize that this is a system that was built upon disagreement. I mean, what the founders intended here in this legislative context is that we're going to come to the table with very different philosophical ideas and core principles, and we have to arm wrestle over that and reach consensus to move the ball forward for the American people. That's what the system is built upon, and right now people are going to their corners and they're refusing to talk. We've got to get over that.
I don't know how we reconcile a lot of these issues. You either believe in climate alarmism or energy independence. How do you reconcile that? How do you reconcile defund, dismantle versus funding law enforcement and no bail laws versus bail laws?
Right.
How do you reconcile secure borders or sanctuary states or cities? Very controversial issues,
yes.
And I don't know where the middle ground is. Do you see it?
There is less and less middle ground. Over the decades, the parties have grown very far apart. There's a wide chasm now. You know, if you rewound back 40 or 50 years, there wasn't really a lot of difference between the Republican and Democrat parties. If you compared their platforms, there were nuances about policy, but they believed in the same things. They were trying to do what's right for the country. You know, the allegation here about some of our colleagues is that's not really their agenda. Some of them really would like to trade what we have for a European-style socialist form of government. We know that that is a terrible idea, so we stand for our foundational principles. What you have to do is get down to those core principles and argue, debate with your colleagues, and use the facts. You know, show them the reality. Socialism is a dead end. Communism and Marxism are terrible things. It's been responsible for the deaths of tens of millions of innocent people over the 20th century alone, right? That is not the path we want to go down. America is different, and we are exceptional because we stand on certain foundational principles. I said in my speech the other night that, was that last night? All my hours are running together now.
I think it was yesterday.
Yesterday, I talked about the core principles of American conservatism, and that's individual freedom, limited government, the rule of law, peace through strength, fiscal responsibility, free markets, and human dignity. And under each of those, there would be subcategories. But that's what we stand for. I call them the core principles of American conservatism, but it's really the core principles of America itself. We're different. We're exceptional. The reason we're the freest, most powerful, most successful nation in the history of the world is because that's what we stand for. And those values and those principles are under assault right now, and we have to defend them here every day with everything we have.
Let me ask you, you had a bipartisan briefing with President Biden. Hakeem Jeffries was there. Other leaders were there. You got a phone call from President Biden. Tell us about it. How'd it go?
Well, I actually had a visit with the president at the White House today for about 15 minutes or 15 or 20 minutes. The other parties were running late, so it was he and I sitting there together. It was a meet and greet. I'd only met him once before. It was cordial and pleasant. I have no problem with President Biden as an individual, right? You respect the office. It's a biblical admonition that you give honor where honor is due, and that's the respect that we have for the office. But he and I disagree on almost no policy. So we didn't get into that too much today, Sean, but there'll be time for that in the days ahead.
Is there any one thing you can think of, policy, that you would say he's done a really good job on this or that?
I can't. I think it's been a failed presidency, and all the problems, some of those that you've articulated already at the outset of the program here, were caused by policy choices. And that's the problem I have with him. It's philosophical.
Look, I'm sure if you've ever seen my show, and I don't know, I didn't ask you if you've ever watched it, the president, in my view, has been struggling cognitively. It's a significant decline that I see. I'm not sure if you saw the tape, the interview that he gave a gaggle on Air Force One when he was flying back from Israel. After, by the way, a lot of allied nations did not want to meet with him. Leaders did not want to meet with him, which I found to be a pretty big snub. I don't know if you saw that tape. Do you see in Joe Biden a cognitive decline? And if so, is that a danger to the country?
I do. I think most of us do. That's reality. This is not a personal slight to him. It has to do with age and acumen, and everyone's different. Everyone ages differently. Clearly, if you look at a tape of Joe Biden making an argument in the Senate Judiciary Committee a few years ago, and you see a speech that he delivers now, there's a difference. Again, I mean, it's not a personal insult to him. It's just reality. And this is what's concerning to us, is that we cannot project weakness of any kind on the world stage right now. This is a dangerous time for all the things going on around the world. The world is a tinderbox. A strong America is good for the whole world, and we have to project strength. I mean, Reagan used to remind us all the time, it's peace through strength. If America shows weakness, it invites aggression by our adversaries, and that's what you're seeing around the world. So I think that's a really important thing to remember. And also, Sean, remember, I've been watching your show since as long as I can remember. I don't know, 25 years almost?
I love when people tell me, I've been watching you since I've been in first grade. I mean, I remember when, feel really good.
I remember when your hair was darker than mine.
It was a lot darker. By the way, as Speaker, I think you're going to catch up pretty quick.
It's already happening.
Especially with the smaller majority.
Yeah.
Already, the press, the left have come at you and come at you hard. Specifically, I'll give you two big issues. One on the issue, you once worked for the Alliance Defense Fund, a Christian advocacy group, and comments you had made both in writing and advocacy for this group about homosexuality, calling it sinful, destructive, and not supporting gay marriage. Quote, no clear right to sodomy in the Constitution. You have been getting hammered on this.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you about it. I want to know exactly, where you stand. Some of these comments were 15 years ago.
I don't even remember some of them. I was a litigator that was called upon to defend the state marriage amendments. If you remember back in the early 2000s, I think it was over 35 states, somewhere in that number, that the people went to the ballot in their respective states and they amended their state constitutions to say marriage is one man, one woman. Well, I was a religious liberty defense lawyer and I was called to go in and defend those cases in the courts. Let me state this very clearly, and there's been questions about this. Let me say where I am. Anybody that knows me will tell you this is true. I am a rule of law guy. I made a career defending the rule of law. I respect the rule of law. When the Supreme Court issued the Obergefell opinion, that became the law of the land, okay? I respect the rule of law, but I also genuinely love all people, regardless of their lifestyle choices. This is not about the people themselves. I am a Bible-believing Christian. Someone asked me today in the media, they said, it's curious, people are curious, what does Mike Johnson think about any issue under the sun? I said, well, go pick up a Bible off your shelf and read it. That's my worldview. That's what I believe. And so
that's your personal worldview.
It's my personal worldview. But here's the thing. Everybody comes to the House of Representatives with deep personal convictions. But all of our personal convictions are not going to become law. This is a big body of people. There's 435 members in the House. You have to argue and find consensus and all of that. So I have no agenda other than what's best for the American people and to defend the rule of law, and that's what we're doing.